Welcome from chilly, crisp Vermont, where the weather is cool and my house is as well because our heat isn't working. So until the heat guy gets here, I'm bundled up and might even put on the hood. I don't know. It's pretty cold out there. So oh yeah, that feels pretty good. Just a little bit of a hood. Hey guys, usually this is the time of the week that I sit down and I do a little writing, and I do indeed have something I want to share, but I just wanted to do it in the form of a video for a change. So as I put this out there to my mailing list, my loss is your gain, because I don't have the patience or the warmth in my fingers right now to type this. So I thought I would just share this insight that I had this week, and it's going to start by talking about a movie, which is my favorite movie, the Shawshank Redemption. If you haven't seen the Shawshank Redemption, two things. First of all, you got to go see it. It's arguably the best movie ever made. It's inspiring, it's wonderful, it's brilliant. It's got Tim Robbins and the great Morgan Freeman in it. It's just a movie you've got to see. It's that good. So don't miss Shawshank Redemption. Secondly, if you haven't seen it yet, this is a spoiler alert. I'm going to offer some insights about things that happen in the movie that you don't want to know if you haven't seen the movie yet. So what I realized about Shawshank Redemption, in having re-seen it for probably the 20th time, last year, by the way, I saw it for its 25th anniversary in the big theater and on the big screen. It was just such an inspiring, powerful experience. Seeing it on TV is amazing, but seeing it on the big screen, mind-blowing. So definitely, as I said, get out there and see it. So Shawshank Redemption, briefly, is the story of Andy Dufresne, a man who was falsely accused of murdering his wife, ends up in prison, I think, I believe in the year 1929, and remains there for about 40 years for a crime that he didn't commit. And the character of Andy Dufresne is the crux of the whole movie. It's who is this guy who is able to survive 40 years in prison, and what are the qualities that he demonstrates, and how does he survive in a way that nobody else there survives? And how is that a message or a lesson for you? How can you benefit and gain from the wisdom that he demonstrates over the course of the 40 years that he's living against his will in Shawshank Prison? So there are 10 qualities that he demonstrates that I think that a lot of us fail to demonstrate, and our failing becomes our downfall, whether we're trying to achieve success or trying to overcome anxiety or even chronic pain. Anything that's stopping us from achieving and reaching the goals that we want. We can learn from these 10 lessons of Andy Dufresne from his experience in Shawshank Prison. And they really come down to these 10 things that he just doesn't lose sight of, no matter what. Even when things is really bad, what are the things that he doesn't lose sight of that a lot of us inadvertently do lose sight of? So the number one, the first thing that Andy never lose sight of, his vision. In the end, his goal, his vision is to end up on this beautiful beach in Zihuatanejo, Mexico, on the beach, repairing a boat, living on the water, and having this particular life. And he spends his days envisioning and dreaming and seeing himself in that place. He has a firm, compelling, lovely vision of the life that he wants that is beyond the walls of the prison. Are you doing the same? Do you have a compelling vision for how you want your life to look, where you want to be, what you want to be doing? Is it something that you can see, feel, taste, and touch? You need a vision. Second, he never loses sight of his value. You know, sometimes in certain circumstances in our lives, we lose sight of the value we have as human beings. Andy Dufresne never loses sight of it. He's in prison. He's just a prisoner, right? And so you would think that he would think less of himself as a prisoner, and yet he doesn't lose sight of his value. He's always operating as if he's a free man. He walks through the prison, not in an argumentative or combative way, just in the way that anyone with calm, peaceful confidence would, who has self-value, who loves themselves. And so the question for you is, are you loving yourself? Are you walking through your life with a feeling of value? Even if you're in a dysfunctional relationship, even if you're not getting the support that you want or need, even if you're not getting the results that you want, are you able to continue to see the value in who you are? Super, super important. He also never loses sight of his perspective. Right? He never lets himself feel like a victim, even when he literally is a victim, even when he's attacked by some very, very nasty people in the jail, he doesn't lose sight of his perspective. He never sees himself as a victim. He's simply somebody who has just unfortunately undergone a trial or a tribulation, but on the other side of it, he just goes back to being the way he was, continues to be calm, confident, peaceful, and happy. He never loses sight of his pride, right? He is a whole human being, despite what others might say or do. He never loses sight of persistence. He is always persistent. Now, again, spoiler alert, for those of you who have not seen the movie, close your ears, but in the end, he finally ends up on that beach in Zihuatanejo. It takes him 40 years to get there, but the way he does it is by slowly, methodically digging himself out of the prison using a spoon or a small carving implement to break through the wall behind a poster, slowly and methodically, and over the course of his many, many years, he gradually finds his way out. Acceptance. Oh, there we go. Here's a good example. I am accepting the fact that I'm in a very cold house right now, and I'm not arguing or being angry about it, even though, there are people I could point the finger at. And I know I don't want it to be this way, and eventually it won't be this way, but right now it is, and I've made my peace with it, so I've dressed for it. And even to some extent, I'm a little bit underdressed for it. I could probably put on another layer and I'd be even warmer, but I've learned over time and trained myself over time to accept uncomfortable sensations in my body, right? Like the cold. Andy Dufresne has to accept the fact that he is behind bars. And rather than get that, that constant feeling of anxiety or fear or frustration about it, he doesn't lose sight of the fact that he's got to be accepting where he is when he is. Resourcefulness. Never lose sight of resourcefulness. Andy Dufresne is the picture of resourcefulness. He has the resources and the wisdom and the intelligence to take what he knows and use it to his advantage. So, for example, Andy ends up doing the accounting for the entire prison, for all the guards, for all their families, for the guards from other prisons. And so he becomes a valuable asset to the guards, and that's because of his resourcefulness. Rather than just considering himself a prisoner, he realizes that he's got a skill, a talent that others can use, and so he makes himself available in that way. And his resourcefulness also extends to the way that he gradually finds his way out of prison, the way that he's able to escape. So what about you? Are you being resourceful? Are you finding the resources at your disposal right now, despite your unfortunate circumstances, to make the most of them, to do something with them? I mean, here we are during COVID, right? And being resourceful right now could be of great value if you could figure out how to leverage your talents to do something of value that might help other people, to use your talents to gradually develop a life that you want to live. So resourcefulness. Never lose sight of resilience. You've got to be resilient. Resilience means you develop this attitude. It's like what I was saying about what I'm wearing right now. The 3 words for resilience to me are bring it on. Bring it on, man. So it's called bring it on. Bring it on. So I'm in prison. Bring it on. So I'm going to be attacked today. Bring it on. So you're going to punish me for what I did? Bring it on. I don't care, because I'm going to stand my ground. I'm not going to fight back. I'm not going to get aggravated. I'm not going to cave in. I'm not going to become less than. Bring it on. Bring it on. Get that attitude. Be resilient. Another inspiring thing about Andy Dufresne in the prison is his generosity. Some of you might remember the scene where he bargains himself into working on the roof of the jail with his fellow inmates, and then getting beer for them so that they all have a day to sit up on the roof and drink beer and feel like free men. And Andy's up there with them smiling, not feeling like, okay, I'm finally a free man, like all the rest of them, but thinking I've been able to give an experience to them that I'm already having. I'm already a free man. I'm a free man up here, and I don't care what's going on out there around me because I'm a free man. And his generosity to be able to share that with others is remarkable. And his generosity in being willing to withstand punishment in order to do that. So there's a great scene where he locks himself into the warden's office and plays music through the loudspeaker, classical music, so the entire prison gets to hear this music and again, feel free for a time. And he just sits there as the guards smash on the door trying to get him out, he knows that it's going to end up landing him in solitary, but it's cool because he's just experiencing his freedom and he's being generous and giving to others. How generous are you being, even when you think you've got very little to give? And most importantly, for us and certainly for Andy is know your enemy. Who's the bad guy? What is the thing that you're fighting? You see, people who have anxiety and people who fly off the handle, who get angry, and people who are frustrated with their lives not going the way they want, or people who have physical pain in their bodies, they see their pain as the enemy, right? They see their circumstance as the enemy. You could see how Andy might find everybody in the prison to be his enemy. They're all the bad guys, so to speak. But he never loses sight of the fact that the enemy is his incarceration, right? The fact that he can't be free, and so he's going to do what he can to develop an attitude of freedom within while simultaneously finding his way out, while simultaneously finding real external freedom as well. So the lesson in that, and the most important lesson I have to share, is this: know your enemy. If you think that your dog pulling on the leash and making you aggravated is the enemy, you're in for a lot of trouble. But if you realize that your own impatience that's enslaving you, that's imprisoning you, is the enemy, then whenever you feel that uncomfortable feeling, you realize where to put your focus, not on trying to make the dog behave the way you want him to, or your husband behave the way you want him to, or your boss to behave the way you want him to, or even, God forbid, our political system to behave the way we want it to, but rather, and again, remembering slowly but surely that yes, that's not to say we don't want to find our way out or make changes, but at the same time, know that in that moment, your enemy is your own attitude. In that moment, your enemy is your inability to make peace, to feel free, to be loving, to be generous, to be resilient, to be resourceful, to maintain your vision. The enemy is anything that keeps you from that vision. And it's never something on the outside. It's always something up here. That's what I learned from the Shawshank Redemption, which when I first saw it and saw it the next several times, I just thought was a great story. But now when I go back and I look at that movie and I see the lessons and I see the model for being a kind of a person that I want to be, I would encourage you to do the same. Watch that movie. Take a look at it and see if you agree with me. I mean, let me know what you think. I think it's a life-altering movie if you look at it from the perspective of how can I be more like Andy Dufresne. Andy Dufresne, who, as Morgan Freeman says, some people can't be chained, right? They're like a bird that comes to land on a window and when they're ready, just fly back away again. Never, ever not being free. Let's make that into ourselves. Let's try to be freer in our own hearts and our own souls, be more generous, more loving, more resourceful, more resilient. And just love your life. Love your life. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Have a wonderful day, whether you're warm or cold, or in or out of pain, or in or out of anxiety. You're alive. Love yourself. Love others. Be well. See you later.